What's up, y'all? This will be the first kind of installment in a long series of player analysis, is just breaking down different players at both the major and minor league level and just allowing the data and the numbers to really tell a story, and then using video and data visualizations to allow that story to come to life and really be able to learn and glean from what the data tells us. And so the first player that we'll be breaking down is a young man in the Baltimore Orioles organization by the name of Chayce McDermott. He is their 8th ranked prospect. He's a pitching prospect, and he is absolutely electric. He leads the International League in AAA in strikeouts at 121, and he's more than 20 ahead of the second place strikeout leader in all of the league. So just absolutely electric stuff. And I'm going to break down kind of what makes him elite, what he can kind of do to help boost his game, and then breaking down some video at the end to kind of show two different metrics of what he's doing well and what he's not doing well, what he can do a little bit better in his movement plane. And so I'm comparing two of his starts. The first start is a May start where he threw a no-hitter through 6 2/3, struck out 11 against the Sounds, was just absolutely electric. And his second start was in June where he threw 5 2/3, but it was much less effective. He only had 8 Ks, and he allowed 4 earned, 2 home runs, and 2 walks through that start as well. So kind of breaking down, the May is his elite start, June is his a little bit rougher start, and kind of breaking down some of the metrics that went into the kind of the change in those effectivenesses. So the first one is his pitch location. In his May start, in the elite start, he was much better at locating his fastball up and his cutter on the margins. And so this allowed him to really be able to create a lot of weak contact. In his June start, his fastball dipped kind of down into the zone, was a lot more middle. All of his fastball and cutter were much more middle, allowing hitters to really be able to tee off. And kind of breaking down some of the metrics of that, his four-seamer in his May start had a 31 average launch angle against and a 74 average exit velo against. Whereas in June, his four-seamer jumped to 33 launch angle, so not much different there, but his average exit velo jumped by 13 miles an hour to 87. And his cutter, kind of the same story. In the May start, the elite start, 38 average launch angle against with a 71 velo against. His cutter jumped to a 15, which brought from a fly ball down to a line drive, and it was the launch angle against, and his average exit velo against was 91 miles an hour. So it jumped astronomically, 20 miles an hour off his cutter. And this just allowed for hitters to really be able to do damage against him. The second thing was his pitch selection. So in his May start, he was throwing his four-seamer 55% of the time and his cutter and slider 25%. In his June start, that jumped to 46%. So his fastball usage dropped by 10%, but then his cutter slider jumped by 15 to almost 40% usage. And so this really allowed hitters to be able to kind of what the problem was is he could not locate his slider in the zone. And so it allowed hitters to really be able to tee off on his fastball, which was then lower in the zone, and allowed them to really be able to do damage on him and really be able to drive the baseball. So because he couldn't locate the slider in the zone, they allowed him to just be able to sit one pitch. Third thing that really limited his effectiveness was his fastball was less effective in his second start for a couple of reasons. So he's never been a high spin rate guy with his four-seamer, which is so interesting because his other pitches, his slider and his curveball, have elite spin rates. But his fastball lives around 2,100 on average, which is below average. He gets a lot of his ride and run from his arm slot and his spin axis, which is basically like how he releases the ball. But in his June start, this dropped. So his horizontal in May was -7 with a 18 vert. It dropped to a -6 with a 17 vert in June. So a 1 less inch of ride and run, making it a much straighter pitch. And with this dropping in the zone, it really limited his effectiveness and diminished that ability. The last two pieces that I want to consider, and we're going to do some video breakdown with this as well, is his extension was about 1/4 of an inch less. And all these numbers seem so arbitrary, right? Like they're so small and minuscule, but they make such a big difference when you add all of these different steps up in the chain, in the kinetic chain of a pitcher pitching or a hitter hitting. It really adds up. So a quarter less inch of extension on all of his pitches in the June start, which allowed him to be, he's further up the mound as opposed to getting down the mound. That coupled with the lack of break on his fastball just really allowed for hitters to be able to tee up on him and really be able to do more damage because they were able to just get that little extra notch of effectiveness against him. He also didn't tunnel as well in his June start as he did in his May. His release points were a little bit off more than they were coming out of the same arm slot. in the May start. And so breaking down this video, you can kind of really see here, he gets on his start against Nashville, which is his elite start, and then his other start. You can see in this Nashville start, you can definitely kind of tell the extension. He gets a little bit more of that lead leg block, kind of finishes a little bit stronger and more flourishing in that moment and in that zone. So you're really able to kind of see him power through that in his May start. And it almost looked like I don't know if he was tired or a little bit off, but his mechanics were just a little bit diminished in that second start in June. And so really being able to break this video down and kind of see what the numbers are telling us and kind of see, okay, this is what's happening in the numbers. Does what's happening on the field bear that out? And you kind of see here it does. Chayce is just a little bit less effective in that June start. And so this is really just kind of showing what the numbers, the data, the visualizations, and then the video can then tell us to be able to, one, help players grow and move past that. You know, his fastball is a low spin rate fastball, but maybe with a little bit different of a hand slot or moving his fingers closer together behind it to kind of mimic that tighter focus point on his pitches, it would really allow him to be able to maybe get higher spin rates on that fastball, because obviously he is able to get high spin rates because his breaking pitches do produce that. And so being able to just find different ways to kind of grow that development and be able to really help a player move on to the next station and the next level would really is what these kind of analyses are all about, and really being able to understand what the numbers say. And so again, stay tuned for more player analysis. This is the first in a long series. Tune into Athlete Lab or my personal channel for anything that you have, and please reach out with any questions or any clarification that is needed.